Hello, hello, and welcome once again to the David Messiah YouTube channel, where our watchwords are to teach and to build back up the kingdom of Zion. The title of this talk is The Day of Vengeance. The Day of Vengeance. And as I always like to do, I will start with definitions, or at least at some point give a definition. But before I do that, before I define what is this thing called the Day of Vengeance, allow me first to say how this talk even arose. It arises because today is Wednesday, September 20th, as I make this video, and on Saturday, September 23rd, is the Day of Trumpets, the first day of the seventh month on the Most High's calendar. It's actually also the sixth anniversary of September 23rd, 2017, when I had my visitation there, and I think very much in accordance with Revelation chapter 12, but I won't go into that here now. But I asked, because of the impending Day of Trumpets, whether there was anything that I should look forward to as would happen, because the Most High's doings, especially in these end times, are definitely coordinated with His calendar. He doesn't change. His calendar has not changed. And here is the calendar for the Enochian year 6009, the ninth year of the seventh millennium, corresponding to Gregorian year 2023. So on the first line of this table, by itself, Saturday, September 23rd, 2023, it's also the first day of the new month, the seventh month, and so it's a new month day of the seventh month, and also that notation there, TR, represents the Day of Trumpets, Yom Teruah. So I asked him whether there was anything special that I should kind of look forward to as would happen on that day, and he said yes, indeed. But before I go into that, let me go back here just so that we clear as to the Most High's calendar. So the second season of the year, which is summer of year 6009, will close per the Most High's calendar on the day prior to the Day of Trumpets, which is Friday, September 22nd, which is the 31st day of the third month of summer, or the sixth month of the year. And that day is, if you look at the notation in red, the very last row on this table, pertaining to the sixth month, 31st day of the sixth month, which is 31st day of the third month of summer. That little notation, lowercase f, marks it as a day of fall equinox. So on the Most High's calendar, which, as I've said before, Most High's calendar has got four pillars: the 2 days of equinox, of fall and of spring, and the 2 days of solstice, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. And those 4 days of solstice and of equinox, as the case might be, always mark the end of the season preceding. And then the following day marks the beginning of the new season to which those days pertain. So the day of fall equinox marks the end of summer, and the day following marks the beginning of the new season, fall or autumn. And at the beginning of every new season is a new month day, in the sense of the ordinance that was given to us by Noah. And let me just look at that briefly so that we are oriented in that regard. Oh dear. Okay, so this was in the book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verses 23 to 29. This is where Noah ordained the new month feasts. And so let me recap here very briefly. Jubilees chapter 6, starting at verse 23. And on the new month of the first month, and on the new month of the fourth month, and on the new month of the seventh month, and on the new month of the 10th month, are the days of remembrance and the days of the seasons in the four divisions of the year. The four divisions of the year being the seasons of spring, summer, autumn, winter. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. Verse 24, and Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become thereby a memorial unto him. Verse 25, and on the new month, and this gives sort of a reason why these new month days marking the beginnings of the four seasons are indeed to be a remembrance unto him. These are the reasons they're given at here, starting at verse 25. And on the new month of the first month, he was bidden to make for himself an ark. Okay, first month. New month of the first month, that would have been a New Year's Day. And on that day, the earth became dry, and he opened the ark and saw the earth. So he also came off the ark on a New Year's Day. Okay. And verse 26, and on the new month of the fourth month, the mouths of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed. So that is what allowed the flood to happen upon the earth, because there was no runoff in the abyss beneath, of the waters beneath. And on the new month of the seventh month, all the mouths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and the waters began to descend into them. So they were opened on the first month of the season of fall, verse 27. And on the new month of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. So the waters had receded to a point where he could see now the tops of the mountains. Verse 28. And on this account he ordained them for himself as feasts for a memorial forever, and thus are they ordained. Verse 29, and they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks. From one to another passed their memorial, from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. Okay, so these new month days are supposed to, we are supposed to observe feasts as ordained by our patriarch Noah as a remembrance to him. Okay? Now, I have also been guided to obey the command given by Yeshua that what was it called again? I forget now what it's called. The Christians call it communion. The Last Supper, right? The Last Supper. We are supposed to memorialize the Last Supper as a remembrance unto Yeshua. And a long time ago, I was given that the way I should keep it, in terms of the frequency of it, even though Scripture says, and I don't argue at all with that. If you want to keep it on a different frequency, that is certainly up to you, because Scripture does permit it. But as for me, I'm guided to keep that remembrance ritual, Last Supper remembrance ritual, also on the new month feast days, as ordained by Noah, which is not every month, but rather the beginning of every new season. First month, fourth month, seventh month, and 10th month. Okay, and I will say just a little bit about how I keep the feast. And how I keep the feast is a fairly minimal kind of way of doing it. One may do it in a much more elaborate way, obviously. But the minimal, because I live alone, if I were in a family and I was having a family feast, it might be a much more elaborate thing. But living alone, it is sufficient for me just to take about a cupful of flour and knead it, the usual kind of a way, but unleavened, without any yeast having been added, without any baking powder having been added, just some salt. Maybe add some oil, add some water, make a dough. I divide it into 4 parts, okay, and I sort of flatten them out into sort of little flat bakes, as we would call them here in Trinidad. I think Scripture might call them little cakes, and fry them in the pan. That's it. And then I have a little ceremony where I would, on a small plate, put one of those cakes. I would also bring some kind of wine or wine substitute. I might use coffee, I might use some fruit juice, might be grape juice, might be orange juice, might be whatever he guides me. So that too is sort of, you can change that up as is convenient. It's not necessary to per se drink wine. You understand? And then I would recite those scriptures that specifically pertain to the Last Supper. I think it's there in Matthew chapter 26. I forget the actual verses, but there's where the Last Supper was described. And I also would go to 1 Corinthians, I think chapter 11, which is where Paul now had indicated to us that it was to be a memorial, a remembrance feast kept to Yeshua. Okay? So that's how I would do minimally a remembrance feast unto Yeshua's Last Supper. Well, I've just now, been guided also to do a memorial feast unto Noah on the very same frequency. So on the very same day, at the very same feast, I would also set a small plate for Noah. And he also gets a little fried cake, unleavened. And I would recite this passage here, Jubilees chapter 6. And that would be it. Now, obviously, you could add to it, but I would not suggest subtracting from it, because this, as I said, is a minimal kind of observation of the feast. Oh, and I also would light 2 candles, leave them lit overnight, the sort of tall candles in the glass. Okay, so in a sense, one for Yeshua, one for Noah, and I would leave those cakes and also the glasses of wine or wine substitute also there overnight. Okay, and then the next day, either in the morning or in the evening, as spirit guides, I would dispose of those items. And the other two cakes I would eat for myself. Okay, now sometimes I might add some cheese to it, but hardly ever would I add more than that. But as I said, if you're doing it as a family, you might have a much bigger feast, closer to how a Passover meal might be. Okay? So that is a minimal observation of or keeping of this feast of remembrance. And he does say that yes, we are supposed to do that because this is an ordinance. Yeah, how does it say, verse 28? And on this account he ordained them for himself as feasts for a memorial forever, and thus are they ordained. So it's a holy ordinance. Verse 29, and they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks. Okay? So the 13 weeks that each had is what is there in the Most High's calendar as it remains. Okay? And this is very different from now what the so-called Jews do, because the Jews have taken up that practice of first observing the crescent moon as the marker for the new months, which is very different from how the Most High's calendar is established. Look here at the year 6009, Gregorian 2023, table A22 here, for the summer season. There are 3 months. The first month, which is the 4th month of the year, the first month of summer, is 30 days. That's always the case. The second month of summer is the 5th month of the year, which is also 30 days. And the third month of the season, which is the 6th month of the year, is always 31 days. So 30 plus 30 is 60. 60 plus 31 is 91 days. 91 days is exactly 13 weeks. 7 times 7 days a week times 13 weeks will give you 91. Okay, so that's how the Most High's calendar was set up. Now, after we went from 364 days per year, which is what it was in Enoch's day, to 365 and a quarter days a year, Most High has guided me through Spirit using Urim, that for the spring season is always now 92 days, which we can see here for year 6009. The first month of spring, which is also the first month of the year, is 30 days. The second month is 31 days, and that is now how it always is. And the third month is also 31 days, at the end of which is the summer solstice. So 30 plus 31, 61, plus 31 is 92 days. So the season of spring is now 92 days always. And the season of autumn is sometimes 91 days, but every fourth year is divisible by 4, it is 92 days, as it is always for spring. So we have 365-day years normally, but every fourth year, those being 4 divisible years, like last year, 6008 was a 4 divisible year, the season of fall would have comprised 92 days, which I could show you here very quickly. Yeah, 6008 in the fall. Yeah, table A19 there in the fall. The first month of fall, the 7th month of the year, was 30 days. The second month of fall, the 8th month of the year, was 31 days. So like spring. And then the third month of the fall, the 9th month of the year, was also 31 days. So on a 4 divisible year, we have the season of fall comprising 30 plus 31, 61, plus 31 is 92 days, same as for spring. But otherwise, the seasons are 91 days. Okay, as we see here in the book of Enoch, which let me take you there very briefly. I have to give this sort of quick recap because one never knows who has seen it before and who may be seeing it now for the first time. So those who have seen it before, I pray that you give me, that you roll with me a little bit and allow me to take a little time to explain this matter. Yeah, so here was the book of Enoch. Look, see where it's highlighted. There's a quote in book of Enoch chapter 82, in particular there at verse 16. All the days of his dominion whilst he bears rule are 91 days. 91 days being the 13 weeks of Jubilees chapter 6, which is what is there in terms of the ordinances given by Noah. So Jubilees and Enoch cohere in that regard. And it's also to let you to be clear that no, we do not have to be looking for the crescent moon as the basis for determining the coming of the new months. Because if you do that, you in fact are going to be wrong. Okay? I know that the so-called Jews are observing Yom Teruah, which is the Day of Trumpets. I believe they're doing it on Friday, based upon the sighting of the crescent moon. But no, it should be rather on the Saturday. Okay, in accordance with how the calendar was laid down a long time ago by Enoch, it having changed only, let me see if I can bring up quickly, where in fact Enoch had also prophesied in his book called the Slavonic Enoch, which is also called the Book of the Secrets of Enoch. There we go. Secrets of Enoch, chapter 68, verse 3. Sorry, what does it say here? Look at this. Secrets of Enoch, chapter 16, verse 4. Sorry. And unto the sun there are 365 days and a quarter. So even in those days when Enoch was laying out the Most High's calendar and letting us to know that it went 91 days to 91 days for each season, 4 by 91, it gives you 364. He also, in the book, The Secrets of Enoch, chapter 16, verse 4, had let us to know that there would come a time when it would not be 364 days anymore, but rather 365 days and a quarter. So that is laid out, and how all of that worked out is laid out in my book, this book here, which I'm pointing at, which is entitled Yahweh's Enochian Calendar and the Second Coming. Okay, so that's the sort of background to how it is that coming Saturday, the 23rd, September 23rd, is going to be the first day of the 7th month on the Most High's calendar, which is a day of trumpets, in accordance with the feast days laid down by Noah, and also in accordance with what was given to Moses when they were coming out of Egypt. Okay, all right. So that's the background as to that. But then I asked, well, okay, Father, should I look forward to anything special that would happen on this coming feast day, the Day of Trumpets? And the answer to that question he gave me was Psalms 81. Essentially, he said, go to Psalms 81. And so I am to read you. And then he said, yes, he wanted me very much to let you all know what now is there and how now it ties in with the title of this talk, which is The Day of Vengeance. Okay, that is the title of this talk. Let's not lose sight of that. All right, but I'm going to read you the entirety of Psalm 81 because I need to do that for it to kind of hang together and make sense. Starting at verse 1. Sing aloud unto God, Eloah, our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob, Jacob. 2. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Verse 3, blow up the trumpet. Well, really, I think it just means to blow the trumpet. It says here in the new moon, which is what gets people confused, because this misinterpretation is now hardwired into the text of Scripture. But it is a new moon in the sense I have given you of the ordinances given to us already by Noah a long time ago, and then sort of recodified in the law given to Moses. Okay, given to, the children of Israel through Moses. So blow the trumpet in the new month, meaning in the new month of the new 7th month of the year, because that's the Day of Trumpets when we're supposed to be blowing. Well, we're supposed to blow the trumpet every new month feast anyway, but this particular one on the 7th month is the Day of Trumpets, which has its own sort of definition and requirements in terms of the law given to the people through Moses. In the time appointed, and the question had to do precisely with the Day of Trumpets, right? So in the time appointed, and our solemn feast day. So he's kind of bringing us back to the takeoff point, even to having asked the question, is anything special going to happen on this Day of Trumpets that is now impending? And he goes on, for this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob. Yes, it was a law of the God of Jacob, indeed, as given again to Moses, or given through Moses at the time of the Exodus. 5. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. So he's taking us back to where this law was given, at least the second time by or through Moses. Verse 6, I removed his shoulder from the burden, his hands were delivered from the pots. In other words, he got us out of slavery. Thou calledst in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. So he's reminding us about all of what happened after we left Egypt, and the little testing that Moses went through at Meribah. And he tested us, and I think we failed the test at that time, because the children of Israel were giving Moses hell to where Moses lost his temper, if you remember. And he just says, Selah. You just think about that and remember that. Verse 8, Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Israel, Yesharalo, if thou wilt hearken unto me. There shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am the Lord Yahweh thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. He is our God. That's what he was offering us. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own hearts' lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me, and Israel had walked in my ways. So he's reminding us what happened. We did not obey his law. And because we did not obey his law, in a sense, he turned his back upon us, metaphorically. And he gave us up unto our own counsels, unto our own devices. I should soon have subdued their enemies and turned my hand against their adversaries. That's what he would have done had we been obedient, but we were not obedient. The haters of the Lord Yahweh should have submitted themselves unto him, but their time should have endured forever. Now that can have a couple of meanings. I won't try to sort it out. Verse 16, he should have fed them also with the finest of the wheat, and with honey out of the rock should I have satisfied thee. Okay, so this is what he's bringing us to remembrance of. That we walked according to our own counsels, we disobeyed his law. What is the title of the talk? The Day of Vengeance. And he let the enemy, as is there described in Psalms 83, he let the enemy have the dominion for a time and times and a half a time, 2,000 to 3,000 years, and we're just now coming out of the 2625th year of that. Okay. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together. With one consent they are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah. So he's reminding us of this confederacy that have sought to cut off Israel from remembrance of who we are, and indeed they have succeeded in that confederacy, because we, the Israelites, the true children to whom God gave the covenant promises, did not remember who we were. And in my previous upload, which I think is entitled Negro Salvation and the Battlefield of the Mind, I did give a definition of even the word Negro and where it comes from. and it basically means the same semantically as the word Israel itself, because it's a reference to that seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All those people who are of the same tribal root as the Nega David. Where Nega is a title that means that a son who is watched over. That's how he became, so to say, the apple of God's eye. Nega, and also that title Nega also came to mean king. So Nega in the Paleo-Hebrew is just two Paleo-Hebrew consonants, which the English Roman equivalents are letters N and G. And then when you add the additional letter R, which in Paleo-Hebrew is a letter Resh, depicted by the head of a man, which carries the idea of the root of something or the head of something, is how you get now Negro. So Negro derives from the word Nega, and it adverts to the tribal root of the Nega. And the tribal root of the Nega is narrowly the tribe of Judah. Less narrowly, it is the house of Judah, and most or least narrowly or most broadly, it refers to all the children of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. So the children of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, by definition, are Negro. That is how that word comes about. Okay, they've tried to make it seem as though the word Negro comes from Portuguese or Spanish, and it simply means black. And black in the English is a word that means essentially a thing of no worth. That's what black means. And that also goes back to the ancient Hebrew. Okay? So when we call ourselves black, we are saying that we are people of no worth, which is not what this is at all. Negro is not that. Negro means the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, all right. So Psalms 81 is where he pointed me when I asked the question as to what is going to happen, if anything, on this coming day of trumpets. And then he sent me to Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61. And furthermore, to all of Isaiah from chapter 60 through to the end to chapter 66, but more specifically to Isaiah chapter 61. And that is where we have a specific reference to the day of vengeance, which is there in verse 2. But let me read from verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God, Eloah Elohim, is upon me, because the Lord Yahweh hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord Yahweh, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. And in verse 3, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord Yahweh, that he might be glorified. Okay, so this is not the rebuilding of Zion. Verse 4, and they shall build the old wastes, they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord Yahweh. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. For your shame ye shall have double, and for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I, the Lord Yahweh, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offering. And I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed which the Lord Yahweh hath blessed. Who are these? These are those who are to build back up Zion. I will greatly rejoice in the Lord Yahweh. My soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causeth the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the Lord God, Eloah Elohim, will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations. I read the whole of chapter 61 to put the entirety of this idea of the day of vengeance into context. Now, Yeshua had already, read from this Isaiah 61, from verse 1 all the way down to the first clause of verse 2, down to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And then he closed the book and sat down, and he said at the time, as far as that was fulfilled, that prophecy of Isaiah was fulfilled already back then in the day of Yeshua. But he hadn't continued to read where it says, quote, and the day of vengeance of our God. So it is that day of vengeance that is now upon us. And this is what he wanted me to bring to your attention. That starting, in some sense, he didn't give me a specific date, he didn't give me a specific time. I asked for it. No, he didn't give me a specific time. But as of the day of the blowing of those trumpets on September 23rd, 2023, which I remind you is the 6th anniversary to the day of that which was prophesied in Revelation chapter 12 for the coming of that man-child. Okay, well, let me go there quickly since I have the Blue Letter Bible open. Revelation chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, which was a specific astrological conjunction in the sky. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And jump down to verse 5, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Now, Blue Letter Bible here makes a mistake, and this is part of the brainwashing. This is not part of Scripture per se, but Blue Letter Bible puts this heading, the male child, Christ. Well, actually, in a sense, it's not a mistake. But if you've been led to equate Christ with Yeshua, then of course it is in your mind that what Revelation 12 here is referring to is the coming of, or the return of Yeshua, as opposed to the raising up. No, it's not even the raising up. It's just the coming, the initial coming, so to say, of that man-child. And that man-child, Lord, I'm going off perhaps on a kind of a tangent, but we must get these terms clear. Revelation chapter 2, verse 26. Remember that motif about the rod of iron. Here in Revelation chapter 2 at verse 26, we see here, actually it's verse 27, but let's start at verse 26. And this is Red Letter Bible, so this is Yeshua speaking to John the Revelator, where he says, "And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron." So that is the Christ. This is the Mashiach. This is the David Messiah. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So at some point, at some earlier point, perhaps in a different world similar to this world, earth, Yeshua was raised up the way now he is raising up the David Messiah. You understand? So that Yeshua was a co-creator with the Most High of this world. And when Adam fell in the garden, the task fell to Yeshua to now bring all of the line flowing from Adam unto salvation. Meaning, essentially, as I discussed at some length in my previous upload on Negro salvation, meaning to a state where all those who are so designated, which are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Negro, can become begotten sons and daughters of the Father, invited unto life eternal with him. Because when Adam fell, Adam could no longer talk directly to God as he was able to do at the beginning. Because if you're in a state of sin, you cannot speak directly to God. So an intermediary is required. And that task of being the intermediary fell to Yeshua, who was the co-creator in the first place. Okay. So we had to go through Yeshua to have our sins now washed away. That authority, in effect, was given to Yeshua, to where we could again, having been put into that state of grace, so to say, we could once again talk directly to the Father, invited unto life eternal in his presence. Okay, and a kind of a quick sort of aside as to that, to prove the point that once we're in a state of sin, it's there throughout Scripture actually, but a good picture of it is given in that story told about the two sons of Aaron who went into the Holy of Holies waving strange incense that they had been told specifically what incense to bring into that Holy of Holies, and they were doing something quite different. And they were instantly burnt up to a crisp. So that gives a sense of what it is. If we're in a state of sin, we cannot come into the presence of the Most High. And that's why an intermediary priesthood is required. And the priesthood that was established for that purpose was the priesthood of the Son Yeshua. And Yeshua set it up through Moses to have another priesthood, which was the Aaronic priesthood, which was established, and that was needed for reasons which are discussed at the book in the book rather, um, the seal book of Moses, which came as part of the Book of Mormon, but a sealed part, which has been recently unsealed, I think, in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and where it is explained that Moses was a priest in effect, able therefore to ordain his brother Aaron and his sons as priests of a lesser priesthood, which was the Aaronic priesthood. So Moses was a priest in the order established by Yeshua right from early when Adam fell in the garden. But that's kind of going off into a sort of a somewhat huge tangent, but for those who are not familiar with these things, perhaps it is well worth mentioning. Okay, so the day of vengeance. What is the day of vengeance? I said I would define it, didn't I? Well, the day of vengeance is kind of defined there by implication in Psalms 81 and Psalms 83, because the enemies of the Most High and our enemies also came against us, cut us off from being a nation, and have been having us to worship false gods. Because why? We went after our own counsels. So the Most High didn't sort of, he didn't put a hand. You understand? And he let them do it. But in the process of doing all what they did, the tabernacles of Edom, Ishmael, Moab, and so forth, they committed sort of grave kinds of crimes against the holy people. So the day of vengeance is that day when all those crimes that they committed would be revenged. That's what that is. That's what the day of vengeance is. And it's referred to in a number of places. Let me go to these three references here. Malachi chapter 4. And it's there at verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. That defines the day of vengeance. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. And ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Well, let me read the rest of it. It's less germane, but it's still good to put the whole thing in context. Verse 4: Remember ye the law of Moses, Moshe, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord Yahweh. That great and dreadful day is also the day of vengeance. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Okay. Psalms Well, Revelation 18, let me take them in turn. Babylon, well, let me start at verse 1. Let me leave aside the headings that the Blue Letter Bible has given us. Verse 1, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Well, Mosai let me know some time ago that this was fulfilled in the spiritual already on March 25th, 2022, which was the third day of the new year 6008, okay, on the Most High's calendar. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. It's vitally important to read this verse 4 here. In part because of Psalms 83 and that confederacy of the tabernacles of Edom, Ishmael, Moab, and Ammon, and etc., and the sins, the crimes committed against the Negro, okay, many of us have been caught up in the religions brought to us by that by that confederacy of Edom and Ishmael and so forth, because they're the ones that have given us these false Gentile religions known as Christianity, because we think that's a wonderful thing and we should all be Christian and that's the way to salvation, when it is not. It is the way to perdition. And the answer as to why that is, for all those Christians that are now recoiling because a demon has been put on your spirit, it's very simple. When we came up out of Egypt and Moses gave us that law, he gave us do's to keep and don'ts to avoid. So to the extent any religion says that that law is now done away with, that's a lie. And they have no authority. The ones who say that that is the case have no authority to say that that is the case. It's not. The Most High does not change. Is there Malachi chapter 3? I think it's Malachi chapter 3. I am Yahweh, I change not. Here's another reference to the day of vengeance, but who may abide the day of his coming? And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. Verse 6, for I am Yahweh, I am the Lord Yahweh, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Why? Because he sware unto our forefather Abraham. He made a solemn covenant that we would be the ones to inherit the covenant promise made to Abraham, that those who curse us will be cursed and those who bless us will be blessed. But he's remonstrating, verse 7, even from the days of your fathers ye are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. You see, but the point here is, I change not. So if somebody tells you, that Yeshua came to change the law, they are lying to you, and that is there also in Matthew chapter 5. They've taken, it's part of the brainwashing. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, where this is a red letter Bible. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So the fulfillment there of which he speaks is that he came to be the lamb, he came to be the priest, he came to be the temple, at the same time that he came to prophesy that that temple would be destroyed, not one stone would be left upon another, and the children of Judah would be scattered out of that land, including the Levite and the Aaronic priesthood. So if there is no temple and no priest, the law given to us in Leviticus chapters 4 through 8, which are laws of sacrifice in order to get sin washed away. When you read Leviticus chapters 4 through 8, it says, if we bring the appropriate sacrifice, which is specified in that law, to the temple, to the Aaronic priest, the sin shall be forgiven. National sin as well as individual sin. So if there is no Aaronic priesthood, there is no temple, how to fulfill that law? Well, this is what Yeshua came to fulfill. He didn't come to destroy the law, only to fulfill it. So he became a substitute for the temple, a substitute for the Aaronic priest, and a substitute for the lamb of sacrifice. And in that way, the law of sacrifice could be fulfilled. Leviticus chapters 4 through 8. So that anybody that tells you the law is done away with, they're bringing you that false doctrine pursuant to Psalms 83, that confederacy of the tabernacles of Edom and Ishmael and Moab and Ammon and all the rest of them. And they're the ones that brought you false religion. And that's why we see here at Revelation chapter 18 verse 4, where it is a voice, an angel says from heaven, saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Because this is what now is happening or coming to pass with the day of vengeance. Those who have brought this strong delusion upon our people, and I make a nod here now to our beloved sister Deborah Yah, who just did a wonderful sort of talk on this strong delusion that is their reference here at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And instead at verse 11, I start at verse 10. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Verse 11, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So this is what this is in terms of and that I addressed to some degree, at any rate, in the previous upload on Negro salvation and the battlefield of the mind. I spoke in terms of a brainwashing. Well, that actually is strong delusion. That is the nature of brainwashing, is that you kind of believe a strong delusion. And that strong delusion was brought to us by those Confederates of Psalms 83. Okay. So that is the day of vengeance. Did I leave something out? Okay. Now it's stuck again. Okay, well, I don't quite know why that is. It happened to me also on my last upload. That the Blue Letter Bible app refused to cooperate after some time. Okay. Okay, well, let me carry on all the same without benefit of Blue Letter Bible. Where was I? Okay, so that is we're talking about, I wanted to go to Isaiah chapter 63, and that is, I need Blue Letter Bible for that, but okay, I'll just leave it out. But what I will do now, he said, go ahead. I wanted to make an analogy in terms of that strong delusion. An analogy with that beautiful piece of music by B.B. King, where he talks about the thrill is gone. Well, the thrill of that piece of music is referencing this Lucille character that was a lady in his life, so to say. And there came a point when the thrill was gone. Okay, well, that thrill is like the strong delusion. And I want to preface, I'm going to play that piece of music, both for its own sort of value, but also to draw this sort of analogy with the idea of getting rid of a strong delusion. It is like B.B. King, singing about that thrill now being gone. But I want to preface it also by referring to Psalms 82, verse 6. And we can't emphasize that enough, because we think the Gentiles are the ones who are supposed to bring us the law, who are supposed to bring us understanding of these matters, when in fact at Exodus chapter 19, the Most High is very clear, that we are to be his priests, a kingdom of priests. Says we are a holy people unto him, a chosen people unto him. We are to be a kingdom of priests. And he also has Jeremiah to say in chapter 16, verses 19 to 20. Okay, that the Gentiles shall come from the ends of the earth and say that they have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Letting us, the Negro, to know that we are not to allow ourselves to be taken in by whether it be the Edomites who have brought us this Christianity, which is a lie from get-go, because the whole point of Christianity is to get us away from the law. That law that is required for our salvation. Islam is the same thing, because that too gets us away from the law. And that too is based on a lie, that lie that Muhammad is a prophet in the line of Moses. And that's a lie. Why? Because just read Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 18, where he says he will raise up from amongst your brethren. He was talking to the Negro, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He didn't give this, he didn't choose any other people to be that chosen people unto him, to be that kingdom priest. Which straight away lets you know that there is no way Muhammad could be a prophet in the same line as Moses. Because whatever God is working through Muhammad, it was not the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, nor Moses. That is simple logic. But many of our people have got caught up in that religion called Islam as well. And let me make the point. In another way. I think it's here. In the book of Jubilees, chapter 15, verses 30 to 32, we have this scripture here. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau, it says Yahweh, but really should be Yahweh, did not cause to approach him. So it is specifically saying that Ishmael was not caused to approach him. And he chose them not, because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it, Israel, and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all has he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray. Man, oh man, it doesn't want to cooperate, these things. Yeah. Yes, and over all these other nations and many peoples, he has placed spirit and authority over them to lead them astray from him. Verse 32, but over Israel he did not appoint any malak or spirit, for he alone is their ruler. That is why he does not want us to have any God before him, beside him, next to him. Certainly don't rear up any idols to worship. That's the point of that commandment, the second commandment. Because he alone is our God, the God of Negro Israel, the God of the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So if we get caught up in these religions, brought to us by the Psalms 83 confederates of Edom and Ishmael and Moab and Ammon and the Hagarenes and the Philistines and blah, 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 blah. I don't care what the religion is. If it is not a religion that upholds the do's and the don'ts given to us by the Most High through Moses, come out of it. And that's the point of Revelation chapter 18 verse 4. Come out of her, my people. Because on the day of vengeance, all these religions, the tabernacles, all these religions brought to us by the tabernacles of Edom and Ishmael, Moab and Ammon, and etc. I don't care what it is, they are coming down. That's what that is, and that's what the day of vengeance is. So it is the day of vengeance of the Most High. Against those peoples who have done wickedly to his people, Negro Israel. And he let them do it. Why? Because he had made a covenant promise through Isaac to Esau, that Esau would at some point have the dominion. And so Esau indeed was given dominion authority over Jacob. Why? Because we, in our stupidity, did not keep the law that he gave to us through Moses. So we had to pay a price. But he gave that dominion promise to Esau for a time and times and a half a time, counting from the very first kingdom of the Gentiles. If you count more narrowly, the fourth kingdom of the Gentiles is for a time and times and a dividing of time. But from the very first kingdom, it's time and times and a half a time, which is roughly 2,500 years. And more specifically, it has gone from the first sort of laying of siege of the kingdom of Babylon upon Jerusalem, which took place December 31st, 606 BC. And the Most High had Israel lay siege upon Babylon in return as of December 31st, 2021, exactly 2,625 years. And that itself was divided up into two portions of 1,290 years, or 90 days, a day being a year, until the sort of abomination of desolation, which was when the Muslims sort of went into Jerusalem and built the Dome of the Rock over where the Ark of the Covenant had been situated. And then another 1,300 and what was that number? 35 days. And both of those 1,290 is 1 plus 2 is 3 plus 9 is 12. 1,335 is 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 5 is 12. And these were given at Daniel chapter 12, verses 11 and 12. So it was letting us know that this was sort of alluding to the coming of the 144,000 who would bring back Zion. That's the significance of that. So as of third day of the new year, 6008, which was March 25th, 2022 on the Gregorian calendar, in the spiritual, Babylon is fallen, that has already taken place. And what we have been witnessing since then and even before then has been the unfolding of that in the physical. And so the day of vengeance is in a sense going to be heralded by the feast of blowing of trumpets on this coming day of trumpets, the first day of the 7th month. Okay, yes, 6009. He didn't give me a date exactly when it's going to happen, but it's imminent. Now, year 6009 spans Gregorian year 2024. I don't know whether it will have happened before the end of year 2024, whether it will go into 25, I don't know. Okay, but the blowing of those trumpets as of this coming feast day of trumpets, Saturday 23rd, 2023, is when that day of vengeance in effect is going to be heralded. So when you blow those trumpets this coming Saturday, blow the trumpet for the coming of that day of vengeance. Blow the trumpet for our people, the children of Israel, Negro Israel, to come out from that strong delusion. And so let me now go to B.B. King for your listening pleasure and also Well, that's a good place to sort of end this in terms of what does he say? I'm free from your spell. Get rid of that strong delusion. And what is his name? His name is B.B. King. By his name, he is letting us to know that we are to be the king. The very word king includes the word nega. The word king comes from nega. It's embedded in the word king. In the German, it's even more clear. It's König in the German. And I mention it why? Because in Psalms 82 verse 6 it says, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High God. That reference there is to the Negro. He wasn't talking to anybody else. But in the next verse it says, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. So we are baby gods. We are called to come back into our right Negro mind. This planet Earth is a schoolhouse for the raising up of another batch of Negro gods. That's what that is. And what is the curriculum? The curriculum is simplest in one word. It is Torah. Another word for Torah basically is truth. And that's why I love this piece of music and music in general, because music, to be faithful, requires one that plays it and masters it to be obedient to truth. Because music has its own truth. And anybody who has ever played music or listens to music knows when there is no truth in the music. That's what we are to learn here in Schoolhouse Earth. And those Gentiles are there for the particular purpose of trying to take us away from truth that we're supposed to learn. You understand? So that we are now called, that piece of music there is something to do with crossroads, isn't it? Crossroads. Yes. Crossroads 2010. So here we are now at the crossroads. We are to choose truth and come out of her, my people. If not, then we stay, what's the word that Paul used? In a state of strong delusion. As a matter of fact, I said it up that some of us, he wants to remain in that that state of strong delusion, because we have no sort of regard for the truth. There's no truth in us. We cannot feel the vibe of truth when it is presented to us, but we'd rather hold on to the lie. You understand? So this is what this is about. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and receive not of her plagues. Because this is now that moment of truth, when the day of vengeance is just now right around the corner. That's where we are. The other point I want to make, as I make reference to Psalms 82 verse 6, where it says essentially that the Negro are gods, baby gods, yes, in this schoolhouse earth. And B.B. King is an example of a kind of a Negro god, because he makes it look so effortless. And that's a way that the Most High uses to remind us who we are, whether it is in music or sport. The Negro does what he does at the very highest level of it, at any rate. He makes it look effortless. That was the beauty of a Michael Jordan. I don't know anything about basketball. I grew up playing cricket and football, soccer. But I could look at Michael Jordan and know, man, this fella, he's a god. And it is not a blasphemy to say that. Because if we graduate from the schoolhouse earth and become begotten sons of the Father, invited unto life eternal with Him, we will have the assignment of creating yet new worlds, parallel to this world, next to this world. The telescopes will not necessarily see them. It's sort of like a honeycomb. If you're in one little sort of cell of a honeycomb, you're not going to see the cell that's right next to you. But it's there. You understand? So this planet Earth is like a honeycomb, or one sort of cell within a larger honeycomb. We're not necessarily able to see outside of this particular sort of cell that we find ourselves in. But there's cells kind of right next door to us. So our task, if we graduate, and how do we graduate? We graduate by harking back to truth. The same kind of truth that you find in music. The same kind of truth you find in mathematics. The same kind of truth you find in engineering. In every worthwhile endeavor, there's a truth to it. And if you can't find that truth, that means you are a malpractitioner. I grew up in a land here, Trinidad, that invented steel band music, where we had people, basically from nothing, they invented that instrument called the steel pan. And we had musical arrangers in a band of 100 musicians. Their ear was so good they could hear one guy that was not doing the right note. You understand? That is truth. That is commitment to truth. And if you understand truth in one field, you could understand the Torah that the Most High wants us to keep. Because His do's and His don'ts add up to Torah, add up to righteousness. That's what it's about. And you cannot be a God, begotten Son of His, in His presence, if you do not have that commitment to truth, to righteousness. That's what that is. It has many aspects to it, a part of which is love, one of which is love. But the overriding concept is that of Torah. Because if you're obeying Torah, you will know about love. Love thy neighbor as yourself. You understand? So some of us get caught up with this or that aspect of Torah. And some of us can't sort of let go of hurts, let go of disappointment. Some of us still, we annoyed, we vexed with our parents because our parents did this or didn't do this or did that or didn't do that. And no, you honor your parents whether they were a crackhead or whatever they were. And in my own case, I had a father. And one thing was he had a commitment to truth. He'd stopped going to church a long time ago. He'd stopped going to all these Hollywood movies a long time ago. And he was one of the most gifted of musicians that I ever kind of came across. He was a prodigy as a youth. prodigy with the piano, prodigy with the clarinet, prodigy with the violin. Unfortunately, he let me go my own way, so I didn't sort of buckle down and study music as perhaps I ought to have. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. And a lot of that is what David gives us an example of. God, David was one of the greatest of musicians. You understand? So the house of David is gifted with this musical ability. Because of all the fields of endeavor, music is that one field that is accessible to everybody, even to those who are not musicians, because you can listen to a piece of music and know, yes, that is truth. Musical truth, because music has its own idea of truth. Okay, and that's why he said, yes, you play them that B.B. King song. And make reference to him being, in effect, a sort of a model of a Negro God. And that particular selection, where he had those three young men who were there playing with him, two of them were whites. I can't say that they necessarily were not Negro. They might have been Negro. But we can more or less make the assumption that they were not. So they likened unto strangers that might want to cleave to the house of Jacob. And that is fine. That is part of what the Lord provides for. But the Negro, to fulfill his purpose here on this planet Earth, has to graduate as a God. And to graduate as a God, he has to find Torah and be true to Torah as given to us by Moses. There's no other way. And any religion that tells you that, oh, that's done away with, run far, far from it. Run far, far from it. As it says at Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and receive not of her plagues, because that day of vengeance is now upon us. And that's the message I'm to bring to you today. So with that, I give all praise, I give all thanks to the Most High God, Yahweh. And to all those listening, I say Shalom.